Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have something special. Well, I always have something special, but this time it's a little bit more special. I got 5 boxes or cases with endoscopes. And it's not just any endoscope, it's endoscope from Swissair, and it's for the Airbus A310, and it's for the JT90 and so on engine. So that's an engine endoscope inspection kit, or however it will be called. It consists of a couple of parts, like a small monitor, cameras, endoscope, flexible endoscope, rigid endoscopes, and, well, I will show you what's inside the boxes. Okay, let's start with this box, the CIS-200. It says camera and light source. And also a pretty nice Sony Trinitron monitor. And of course an inventory list and a user manual for the light source. And then we have bags, everyone labeled with a number, so you clearly know what goes in what box. That's the light source and video controller and the power cable and an empty bag. No, that's a fragment of the light bulb. I assume they already replaced that once. Okay. So that's the camera. It has a... Where is it going? Okay, here. It has a protective plug. There's the camera lens here. And on the other side, you also have a protector for the connector that goes in here, like that. Okay, so that is empty. Then we have a BNC cable to connect the video controller to the monitor, another power cable for the light source, and another power cable, well, I don't know. And that's how it looks when the system is working. Here you have a glass fiber optical light guide, so that's the word. Inside the box here is a xenon light bulb, a pretty small xenon discharge bulb. It makes a pretty bright light, which is important to see anything through those endoscopes. So that plugs in here. That's the connector from the camera, which is this here. And that's basically only a little bit of optics, the CCD chip, maybe some cable drivers, and all the rest of the camera electronics is inside this box. And then we have an analog video output that goes to the monitor. And amazingly, the camera without anything attached. Let me focus that. Has some sort of tele lens on it, So you can see that's the view through my window, and yeah, it's maybe ×2, ×3 magnifying. So for example, this is I'm shooting now the monitor from the same distance. So let's have a look into the large boxes here. We have this long box that contains 4 endoscopes in different lengths, like this one, a shorter one, a longer one. Well, they all have the same length, but not the same diameter. So I guess they are for different locations to look into this engine. Then we have an angle adapter, a right angle. So the camera goes here, or you can also look directly into this eyepiece here. You don't necessarily need the camera, but you certainly need the light source. And there is also a rubber for the eyepiece that goes on top of that to make it a little bit more convenient to look through. Then there is an adapter where I don't actually know what it is for, so I guess it's for the light guide, so to connect different sizes of light guides to this endoscope. And of course here on the side, that's the light input. Here is where you look through, so you can't see much without the light. And then on the other side there is this little hole, that's the lens. This endoscope here looks sideways. So, as I said, the camera has this quick release here with the 2 clamps, and that just goes like that. And the fiber, the glass fiber cable with the light just goes on here, and you see the light shines out on the side. There is a second hole for the light, or a second lens. And of course it's all movable. It has here a ring to adjust focus, and that's the view through the endoscope. So an endoscope is basically a microscope on a stick, and we can go very close. So that's, for example, the power switch of this camera controller module, light source thing. And we can go closer and adjust focus. Okay, so that's the screws on the side of the housing. And we can of course go underneath. So that's one of the rubber feet standing on my wooden table. And we can go underneath the device, and there is a label. Where is it? Here. We can clearly see everything written on this label. So how close can we go? So there is one of the ventilation holes on the bottom. We can focus to that, and if I lift it up, we can even see inside the box through that little hole. So we clearly see a heatsink, some connectors, and that's probably a rivet here, the back side of a blind rivet or pop rivet. And that's the ventilation holes of the monitor, as you can see here. It's relatively dark, so you need a lot of light to get a clear image. So we have to go a little bit closer to get more light. And let's see if we can look inside the monitor. So there's not much to see. How about here? Oh, there's something colorful. Yeah, that looks like a flat cable to me. What else do we have? There's something. Can't recognize that. There are some more cables inside. And I'm only looking through these ventilation slits here. And that's probably a difference to a normal microscope, so the focus range is extremely large. So what is that? Looks like some electronic components. Yeah, capacitors in all directions, bent, okay. Seems not to be a problem because monitor is still working. So yeah, and we can also focus it through the window and you see the church on the other side of the window. So focus goes practically from 0 to infinity. By the way, the camera head here has a standard C-mount thread here. You can see the CCD chip inside, and that adapter also fits to my more modern HDMI HD industrial camera, microscope camera. Unfortunately, even if this makes the better pictures, it's not sensitive enough, so everything is very dark and you can hardly see anything. So for the video it's better to film it from the Sony monitor, the analog monitor, but yeah, it could be changed maybe with a better camera or some different settings. This could be used too with this endoscope adapter. As we have seen, there are rigid endoscopes. These are quite simple. They have some lenses here, have some lenses on the other side, and the rest is more or less a hollow tube with some glass fibers inside to guide the light to the other side, or maybe they do that with mirrors. I have not much information about this, but the more interesting version of an endoscope is the flexible one, as you can see it here. And it's already connected to the light source, so it has this flexible piece. And this is of course called a fiber scope, because not only the light travels through glass fibers, also the image itself. And that's a pretty clever invention. So how do they make an image from a lens here going through glass fibers into the eyepiece here and make it visible? How can they do that? Handle here, this grip, has some functions. So of course this is the eyepiece with some rubber where you look through. Then you have these two wheels here, and as you can see, One is for horizontal movement and the other is for vertical movement. So you can move the tip of this fiber head here separately. So that means you can slide that into an engine, into a device, whatever, and then have a look all around. And of course there are some fixing levers that, if you have found the correct position, you can turn that to fix, and then it stays more or less in the position. So that's what these knobs and buttons do. There is not much more. As I explained, the image travels through these fibers. There is a little bit more optics inside. It's purely an optical device. And let's see if... So that's probably the best I can get. That is again the underside of this camera module. You see the label. You can read the letters, but with the camera I can't focus that better. But you can see the individual pixels of this round image, and that's the individual fibers that transmit 1 pixel by a time. So let's see if we can move it a little bit. Yes, up and down, sideways. Yes, that's how it looks when it moves. I already unplugged the cables from this box, and you see the light is just shining out here, and yeah, it gets a little bit warm because it's very intense light. And I would suggest to have a look inside. I'm pretty sure you want to see how that works. Alright, that's the camera module light source device, and it's pretty simple inside. We have a large power supply. We have an extra power supply for the xenon lamp. It's a short arc xenon lamp with about 30 watts or something. And we have this long module here that looks a little bit special. And I guess that's, well, I know that's the camera module, because here is the camera connector that goes more or less directly into this device. And here on the back side are the 2 BNC connector outputs for the video signal. And I just spilled all the screws all over the floor. Replacing the bulb is pretty easy. You just disconnect the connector here. You can see cables go directly to the lamp module here, power supply module. And there is a metal clip that holds the light bulb in place. I see it's a little bit different than I thought. So there is a maintenance cover here on the underside of this device that can be unscrewed to get access to the lamp. And the lamp, then you can pull back these springs and hopefully the lamp comes out. Yes, so that's the bulb with this tiny little xenon burner here inside. And that is the actual lamp here. This tiny little bulb with one contact here. The other contact on the other side is broken off. So this was inside the case. So I suspect that one of the earlier lamps exploded and that fragment was left inside the device. Let's see how it looks when the light bulb turns on by itself without anything around it. Okay, I see there is a safety mechanism. There is a safety switch here that is pushed with this pin. So I have to install the cover plate first, otherwise it wouldn't work. So that's the red part here is the safety switch. Yeah, it gets pretty bright. And that is not full power yet. It takes a while to heat up and build up the pressure inside the bulb. Okay. So I will not turn it off just yet because it's a bad thing to only turn it on for a short time and turn it off again. So I better let it reach its operating temperature and then I will turn it off. So the light bulb is back in place and there is another feature. You have a brightness selector here on the front panel, and the question is, how do you regulate regulate the brightness of a discharge bulb? And that's pretty complicated if you want to do it electrically. So they added this little motor here that opens and closes a shutter in front of this light bulb that just opens and closes a larger or smaller hole like an iris. So they use a mechanical iris to regulate the intensity of the light. Unfortunately, that part doesn't work anymore. I'm not sure the motor itself seems to be okay. It's a stepper motor, but probably there is something wrong with the electronics. That is this part here. And but that's not a big deal because it is now set to full brightness and that's what you usually need. Okay, let's have a look in a different device. We have seen this video amplifier, this camera module. I want to show you another unit. As you probably know, endoscopes are also used in medicine, so the controllers, the cameras, they are the same as in the technical field. And this is the camera controller from a medical device, a medical endoscope. It does exactly the same thing, but that's only the camera controller. There is no light source in it. The light source would be in a separate box. And the interesting part here is that they used some pretty standard parts inside. And in fact, I'm a little bit surprised and also a little bit disappointed how cheaply they did that. So the whole box is a power supply and the camera controller. And if you look closely, you can see the Panasonic badge here. It also has all the buttons here. It has the camera connector that simply goes to another camera connector here. Customized camera connector. So they just took this Panasonic video device, put it in a box together with a power supply, and that's it. Here on the back side you see video output and S-video output that comes directly from that box. So we could take this box out of this and use it as a standalone unit. Only the power supply here is connected. Yes, here somewhere. And they also had 2 buttons out of the 4 buttons, so 5 buttons here. So, well, that's a cheap way to make a device. You take a device and put it in another case, write your own name on it, and sell it for twice the price. Okay, so let's have some fun with the endoscope. I want to show you what is possible with these things. So I'm looking into this video box and you can see they removed the DC power switch and fed some cables in it. We have a white balance button. There is the cable, the video cable in the way. Automatic gain control, automatic, what's that, white control, gain up, and a setup button that allows you to go into the setup menu of this box, something you can't access from the outside because they only connected 2 connectors, 2 buttons. And the camera connector here seems to be glued in, so normally you can unscrew that, but that's not possible in this case. And there is another connector for title, so I guess it's a title generator. And here you have the product number, Panasonic WVKS152, if you want to Google that. So that's the model of this video controller. And on the other side we have the PCB with the power supply. Yes, it is unplugged now, so because it's a little bit dangerous with a metallic rod to poke in the power supply region. So we can inspect the solder connections here underneath. And now it's the moment where a rigid endoscope comes at its limits, because I can't get any further in. For example, this full bridge rectifier. Yes, I'm actually almost touching it with the probe, with the endoscope, and I'm still able to focus, so that is focus distance 0. Yes, and I can go much closer to it. No, I can't, because there are other components in the way. But you can see we can get pretty detailed shots with this thing. So I think I have to find a way to connect another camera to that, maybe one with a higher resolution, and to then connect the more modern monitor. But all in all, that's a pretty nice toy. Thanks for watching.